Hello, students. In today's lecture, I'll talk about Act 3rd of As You Like It by William Shakespeare. Scene first is set in a room in Duke Frederick's palace, and Duke Frederick orders Oliver to find Orlando and bring him back within 12 months, dead or living, or all his property would be seized. Now, Oliver, in this scene, you'll notice that Oliver has been summoned to Duke Frederick's palace to report about Orlando. Duke Frederick commands him to find his brother as soon as possible, otherwise, his property would be confiscated. So, in this scene, we notice that when Duke discovers about the flight of his daughter Celia and his niece Rosalind, he suspects Orlando and therefore he calls his brother to bring him back dead or alive. Now, scene second is set in the forest of Arden, and this scene opens appropriately with a love poem of Orlando, which reveals his feelings for Rosalind. Now, this scene is one of the longest scenes of the play, and here you'll notice that Orlando is already in the forest of Arden and he composes poems in honor of his lady love Rosalind, and Orlando hangs these poems on the trees so that everyone would praise her beauty and her virtues. So there's also a dialogue between Touchstone and Corin, which connects the scene with the pastoral life of the forest. Next, you'll notice that Corin and Touchstone are in a conversation about relative merits of court and country life. Now, Corin is a shepherd and he represents simple and innocent rustic life. His philosophy is straight and simple. He says that sickness brings pain and suffering with it, and the man who has neither wealth, goods, nor contentment lacks three very useful friends. Now, Corin also makes Touchstone understand the fact that country life is not miserable and the inhabitants of country must not be condemned for their manners, because it would be illogical to perform all the formalities in the forest life. Now, you can't expect a courtly behavior in the forest life. Corin says that our manners must be suitable to the life we live. So he says that polished behavior would appear absurd in the country, and rough behavior, unpolished manners would appear absurd in the court. So Corin says that a person must live and act according to his surroundings. So, meanwhile, Rosalind also enters and she takes a paper from the tree and reads it aloud. Touchstone, of course, mocks the verse, and Celia now also enters disguised as Aliena with a verse in praise of Rosalind. Now, Celia already knows that Orlando has written these poems, so she teases Rosalind about the man who has written it. Now, Rosalind becomes curious and she asks a number of questions about Orlando. After some time, we notice that Jax and Orlando also enter the scene and they both pull each other's leg. Now, Jax tells Orlando to stop hanging love poems on trees, and Orlando rebukes him for making fun of his poetry. After Jax leaves, Rosalind confronts Orlando and talks about the person who has been hanging verses in praise of a girl named Rosalind. So, when Orlando admits that he is the poor, unlucky man and is in need of a remedy, Rosalind now dismisses his proposal for remedy. Why? Because according to Rosalind, symptoms of love sickness are very different, and Orlando appears quite opposite of that. He has neither worn and haggard face nor weary looking eyes, so he cannot be called a true lover. Now, here you must keep this in mind that Rosalind is disguised as a man, as Ganymede, and she is testing that whether Orlando is loyal or not, whether he really loves Rosalind or not. So Rosalind offers him help to cure his lovesickness, and she tells Orlando to woo Ganymede as if Ganymede is the lover, and in this way he would be cured. So Orlando is quite sure of his faithfulness and constancy in love, but still he agrees to woo Ganymede. In scene third, actually this also takes place in the forest, and here we find Touchstone and a shepherdess Audrey wandering in the forest. So Jack's intervention postpones the wedding and so adds another marriage to the wedding mask at the end of the play. Now, because Touchstone and Audrey, they both decide to marry, and they also call a vicar, Sir Oliver Martext, to perform the ceremony. And when the vicar asks who will give the women, now Jax appears and he offers help, but Touchstone thinks that it would be better to let Jax marry them, for it would be an unlawful marriage and it would be easier to end it. So they all leave and they cancel the marriage, leaving Sir Oliver Martex behind. In scene fourth, Rosalind appears angry because Orlando has still not come to take his love lessons. And even Celia teases Rosalind that Orlando is actually not in love and therefore will not come here to woo her. Celia says that he is only honest in the affairs of everyday life. Now, Orlando's failure to come at the appointed time makes Rosalind anxious and she is also agitated. When Celia attacks Orlando, Rosalind defends him, and when Celia praises him, Rosalind finds faults in him. So just then, Corin comes and informs them about the lovesick shepherd Silvius and his mistress Phoebe and asks them to follow him. In scene 5th, after Rosalind, Celia, and Corin have overheard Phoebe rejecting Silvius, Rosalind now rebukes Phoebe in strong terms, with the result that Phoebe falls in love with the young man that Rosalind in her Ganymede costume appears to be. Now, we already know that Silvius is madly in love with Phoebe, but Phoebe never reciprocates his love and insults him continuously. He pleads to have mercy on him, but she never listens and accuses him of false statements that Phoebe's eyes are slayers and they pierce his heart. Now, poor Sylvius tells her that when she will suffer the pain of love sickness, only then she will realize, only then she will learn about Sylvia's agony. So, meanwhile, Rosalind enters and she chides Phoebe for her rude behavior and asks her why she was being arrogant. Because, according to Rosalind, she was neither pretty nor good hearted. Rosalind also asks Sylvius why he follows her. He was more deserving than her, and he should stop flattering her. So Rosalind gives advice to Phoebe to acknowledge her mistake and to take Sylvius as her lover, because she will not always get this opportunity. Now, to everyone's surprise, Phoebe is attracted towards Ganymede and prefer Ganymede's rebukes to Sylvius' love. Now, although she admits that she does not love Ganymede, but she decides to write him a letter. That's all for today. Thank you.